Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin with the special address by Shri Sanjeev Kumar, Secretary, Department of Defense Production, Government of India, on Atmanirbharta in New Age Technologies. This session will be moderated by Shri Raj Chengappa, Group Editorial Director, and India Today Group. It is a pleasure to have you here, sir. Raj Chengappa is a veteran journalist with over 4 decades of distinguished experience. He is currently the Group Editorial Director of the India Today Group, Asia's leading media house, and the editor of India Today magazine, the country's largest read news publication, with a combined English and Hindi readership of 16 million. He also oversees Business Today, Reader's Digest, Rob Report, and Auto Today. Before this, he served as editor in chief of the Tribune Group of newspapers, one of India's oldest and most respected media institutions. Earlier, during his 29-year tenure at India Today, he was managing editor and editor of the Indian editions of Scientific American and India Today Aspire. Mr. Raj Chengappa is known for his expertise in political analysis, foreign affairs, security, and science, and is the author of the acclaimed book Weapons of Peace, the secret story of India's quest to be a nuclear power. He has covered major wars, including Kargil, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Sri Lanka, and has interviewed world leaders such as Narendra Modi, Vladimir Putin, Emmanuel Macron, and Benjamin Netanyahu. A former president of the Editors Guild of India, he is a Nieman Fellow, Stimson Fellow, and a Raj Yotsav Award recipient. It is our pleasure to have you here with us, sir. May I now request you to take over the proceedings, please? Thank you.
It's on? Oh, it's on. Great, great. Yeah. Well, good afternoon. And as someone described it, this is a graveyard shift after lunch, where everybody nods off. But we have a very eminent speaker here, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, Secretary, Department of Defense Production, and of course, a fascinating subject that I'm sure, given his vast background, and which I'm going to talk to you about him briefly. But before that, just a bit about the subject itself and why it's such a critical time that we are meeting at, and I would call it a crossroads in modern warfare. We have talked for a while on the rapid revolution of military affairs, or RMA, but this is a whole new revolution that is unfolding within our eyes and at a speed that we always find difficult to comprehend and catch up with. We are looking at computer algorithms that are doing war, autonomous and super smart weapons and robotics, and how what a decisive role they play in the battlefield. We have seen how loitering munitions in our own backyard here and autonomous swarms of what they call AI-fused intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or ISR, which can turn sensors feeds into immediate fire in a minute. And we are seeing warfighting being rewritten on real time. So we saw how Ukraine has cheap drones, AI-assisted targeting, and relentless electronic warfare that could blunt even the most sophisticated Russian systems and their kill chains. We saw, of course, recently, thankfully, the wars looks like has come to an end in Israel and Gaza or Hamas. And there also we saw the entire AI-enabled battle management in what is seen as a very dense urban terrain, very tragic, and it raises hard questions on human judgment, collateral risk, and of course, transparency. And not to forget India's recent Operation Sindoor, which of course underscored the value of precision, standoff strike, and cross-domain ISR as we know it, paired with careful escalation control and signaling. As we saw, things could have reached a very dangerous turn, but was stopped before that as India achieved its goals. So we are in that subject where we're looking at defense policy planning and its implementation. Looks exotic, but in many sense, absolutely relevant. We have seen how Britain has come out with its own MOD's defense AI strategy in 2022. We've also seen how America has come with its data and analytics and AI adoption strategy in 2023. And Israel, of course, has done its, around the same time Israel came out with its AI policy framework on war. And we've had other countries do it. And all of them are pushed, as we can see, for faster research and development, testing and fielding of AI-guided weapons. But they have also to wrestle with a lot of questions on ethics, the data quality, as we've seen a lot of hallucination can happen when we use ChatGPT, and how do you then control that? And of course, accountability. India is not far behind. Let's give India a bit of praise as well. We have, in fact, Niti Aayog did have a national strategy for AI. If you haven't read it, you should. There's a national quantum mission that talks of computing and how we can enhance the power of that and make it battle ready as well. There's a national supercomputing mission, a semiconductor mission, which I recently put on the cover of India Today, where we have really been lacking in semiconductor chips, but something that we're developing. And of course, DRDO is here, very eminent representatives of DRDO is here on autonomous systems. So I think the real challenge is to turn dual use technology, as we can see, a lot of this is dual use, into combat credible capability, but with an emphasis on safety, speed, and scale. So our conversation with Mr. Sanjeev Kumar is going to be on the best practices and roadmaps, and of course, Atmanirbharta Bharat, and how to plan, structure, and implement defense policy when, as we see, the tech curve is absolutely steep, the supply chain is dual use, which I mentioned earlier, and adversaries don't advertise their moves. Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, I think, has just the kind of capability in understanding this crossroads that's there between technology and warfare. He's an IIT alumnus and a Master of Business Administration from JBIMS Mumbai. And he brings together a very deep expertise in technology management and governance. He has a reputation of getting things done in the field of technology. As chairman of the Airports Authority of India, he steered the authority through the challenges of the COVID era, which we all remember. And he did bring back profit to the entire operation, as well as oversaw record airport expansions. Earlier, he transformed Maharashtra's power utility corporation into a very profitable entity and helped launch the landmark Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which provided homes to over 1 crore urban families. So, eminent, and please join me in welcoming Mr. Sanjeev Kumar to this gathering. A warm round of applause for him. And may I now invite you to deliver your keynote address.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raj Chengappa. In fact, I was telling him that when I heard his name and his brief CV, that who should be moderating whom. And after listening to his opening remarks, I'm again thinking, where do I am standing and why I am standing? Very so thank you very much, Itsa, for inviting me here. Ambassador Chinoy, really grateful to you for being here. Not because I was eager to deliver any address. Topic is very, very difficult. In fact, I'm finding very difficult to even streamline my thoughts. I'm pleased to be here because it's really, really a very forward-looking subject. And whatever piece of information, knowledge one can gain, it would be useful individually and also collectively. We also have amongst us retired Chief of Air Staff, Mr. Vivek Chaudhary, and all knowledgeable person in this sector. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic on which I am supposed to speak is self-reliance and new age technology. So in fact, it can be broken into two parts. One is self-reliance, another is new age technology. So just to start speaking something about that, as I was saying, that very difficult topic and difficult to really organize your thought on such a wide and deep topic, which still is unraveling itself at a breathtaking speed. It's like a child when I used to sleep on the rooftop in one of the town in Western UP during summer and used to see stars and then start thinking. Then thoughts used to just overwhelm that where does it end? Where does it go? What it is indicating. Similarly, is this newest technology, where it begins, what all it comprise of, where would it take us, what are the possibilities? And then somehow at least I get overwhelmed. I don't get to see anything with any greater clarity that how it is going to unravel itself. So how to speak on such a topic? So I will try to do whatever best I can do, would put my confusion in my mind in front of you. In fact, in last 10, 11 years, uh, uh, our country has done really great job. In comparative terms, in absolute term, nothing is great. In comparative terms, in defense production, indigenous defense production. Not only numbers, which are there themselves to tell their story, from 46,000 crore in 14-15 to 1,51,000 crore or more in 24-25, along with export growing from almost 700 crore to around 2,400 crore. Apart from these numbers, the other stories which we can see in confidence of our defense industrial ecosystem and also our armed forces in that defense industries manufacturing ecosystem, we can see that confidence. It is growing. Still, we are one of the largest importer of the platforms, arms, ammunition, but now we started believing that we would be reaching very soon where we intend to reach. So how this transformation, if I can use the word transformation, took in last 10, 11 years, I won't waste any of your time. All of you understand, but foremost, and probably the single most reason is taking a very hard policy decision that starting from 1819 or 1920 or onwards, that 75% of our defense acquisition budget would go towards purchases from indigenous sources. So if one start dissecting that particular catchword, indigenous sources, so there would be multiple thread of stories, but overall stories is that government of India, armed forces, Ministry of Defense is going to prefer something which is indigenous, which is a very, very positive statement, positive intent and positive policy statement which government made, and which, of course, then attracted people who want to put their resources, who have interest in coming in this sector, and then started organizing themselves to put their financial resource or their human resource. And that, in my opinion, was the single most reason of whatever we could achieve. Have we reached to the level where we can say self-reliance? Of course not. As I just said, that we are still one of the biggest importer, even in the traditional arms and ammunition. So we are here talking about self-reliance in new age technology. So does that mean, is it premature to talk about self-reliance in new age technology? Not, probably not. As Mr. Chengappa also in his opening profound statement made that comment. It is not premature. Rather, it is the right time to talk about. So first we need to understand exactly what is self-reliance is. So self-reliance can mean different thing to different people in the different context. But the way our Honorable Prime Minister in many communication to the public at large and in conversation with the armed forces and policymaker in this sector has very clearly brought out self-reliance means that we become master of our destiny. We don't remain dependent in a very significant manner on others. Others may include any other country, so that we can decide what we would be doing in future about our preparedness for any eventuality wherever it comes. So means that we should have total control on our equipments, our software, hardware, supply chain, and we should not be found wanting whenever it is required to upscale, to integrate horizontally or vertically across the services, within the services, even beyond the services. That means self-reliance. Uh, then, of course, different version of this would be practiced as tactical move or as a fait accompli or as a given situation. Then, but clarity should be there that the ultimate objective of us is to reach to that level. There, we have total control over things which we would be using in adversarial situation whenever or wherever it happens. Having understood that term self-reliance, then we also need to then conclude that or draw a conclusion that the weapon system which we are going to use in future should be indigenously designed, and the design should be 100% owned by us, and it should allow us to integrate, scale up the manner in whatever manner we want to play with that. And we should also have control over supply chain of material, component, subcomponent, assemblies, sub-assemblies. Doesn't mean that everything should be manufactured within the country, because in the globalized world, it neither desirable, may not be desirable, not maybe possible. But what does it mean? That we should have total visibility and control. Whenever we need to, as I'm repeatedly saying, scale up, we should be able to do it without any hindrances. Now I come to the word technologies. Again, it's a word which can be defined in many manners. The one simple manner is something which allow us to make life simple using the equipments or the things which we can create by using the technology. So new age technology, is it something new, or is it just every decade or every 20 or 30 years, whenever new thing come, then we could have called it new age technology? Was that case that the technology was more, has become somehow important now? Was it not important earlier? So I'm not a student of military warfare, and neither I'm a student of history. But what I understand, whatever bits and pieces I have read, is that technology was always a very prominent factor right from medieval period, or maybe from the period of ancient times. Whenever we try to read Mahabharata, then we see that Karan got some arm from Indra, and in lieu of his kavach and kundal, and that arm was something must be very, very highly technologically advanced arm vis-a-vis whatever was available amongst the other peers at that time. And of course, Arjun had equally good or equally competent arms. So what I'm trying to say, that even in medieval period, the outcomes of the war were decided by, not in lesser measure by technology, equally by the leadership, the strategic leadership which made the difference, and also whole of the society efforts. These factors must have played role always. So the technology would always play an important role in 17s and 80s, when semiconductor or chips became important in the arms, uh, got more and more integrated in the arms to increase the precision and accuracy of the prevailing arm. Then at that time, it must be a new dawn, new technology era. Similarly is now. But there is something critically different, which all of us know. Critically different is the speed at which happening and the dimension in which happening. It is happening in multi-dimensions, or it is happening at a very, very high speed. That's why we probably can say it's a totally different era of advent of technology, and that's why it requires humongous efforts to understand this, to calibrate it, and integrate it within our own systems, not only in arm system, but also in our uh, management systems. So if I go back again to the traditional arms and systems, we still have critical gaps where we are still struggling to meet those gaps. Some of the gaps are known. I mean, most of the gaps are known. Why some of the gaps to most of us? This is in the engine, jet engine technology, even the engine technology for our ships and warships, and also for the land system. Critical gaps in material, critical gaps in semiconductor, critical gaps in sensor, etc., etc. So those gaps still remain in the traditional systems. And when we talk about new age technology, what type of technology we are talking about? Mr. Chengappa spoke artificial intelligence, machine language or machine learning, whatever we say, AI, ML, and uh, data, huge data collection, sensors, communication, integration of data which is coming from the sensor, doing the computing using supercomputer at a very high speed and distributing those results to the systems which are in the field, connecting all those systems, centralizing them. That's for network warfare or network computing, what the particular name which we all use. I'm not very familiar with many of those names. Of conceptually, I understand that concept is very clear, that we have uh, made huge, the world has made huge advancement in terms of capturing the data. That is the sensors, large types of sensors have been developed which can be deployed across the platform within the, let's say, at the land, in the sea, in the sky, in the air, even the space. And all these sensors becoming day and night, but better than yesterday, better than what it was yesterday or what it was a few hours ago or few days ago. And we are capturing huge lot of data. That data is getting translated and transferred to a certain place. And that certain place has got huge computing capability or should have huge computing capability. And it is also has got the historic data. Then that capability analyze that data on the basis of historic data on its own, which we call AI, or assisted by the human or decided by the human, take certain decisions. Those decisions are communicated to every type of systems which are there, every type of equipment which are there in the field to do what we intend to do. So that's type of system we are talking about. And here we are talking about advancement in technology, advancement in sensor, advancement in computation, advancement in AI, advancement in communicating using quantum communication or quantum computing. All those things are loosely we can call new age technology. As I said, that it's like stargazing and getting confused what all can be called new age technology. Typically, whatever was not there yesterday, whatever can come today is new age technology. So here, do we have better chance to become self-reliant? That is the question, which is a central question to ask. I feel yes. I mean, I think most of us would be feeling yes, because two, three things which distinguish these new age technologies is that learning curve may not be that much steep as it was in the old system, where the manufacturing and advanced manufacturing was the core, was the heart of the matter. Here, of course, manufacturing would be important, equally important, if not more. But something else would be also very, very important, equally important. That is our capability to create software, to capability to understand, capability to create algorithms. And there, traditionally, we have been very good. Mathematics of our Indian people has been traditionally very good, and we have done quite better in comparison to other traditional ways, traditional systems in this area. So we should be able to do it better here. Second, even within the world, the learning curve in terms of time is not so steep. In terms of acquiring knowledge might be steep, but in terms of the time taken by the people who enter in this field is not so steep. It may be because of many various reasons, but here also we can believe that Indians, we as a society and also as a system, would be able to cover the gap faster. Third and most important, in my opinion, is most of these technologies are getting created in the civil domain first, which was unlike the case in erstwhile military technologies. And civil domain, being civil domain, is much more open and more Many of these technologies are, many of these technologies, see, I would use the word technology only, are getting created by a large number of civilians engaged in various aspects of the civilian working and using the open source. And they are very open about it. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe something this big power has concealed within themselves and hasn't made it very open to rest of us. But whatever we know that AI, ML, quantum computing, and all these things are getting used in civilian domain very effectively. Rather, they are leading, and now the military would be following them, which was unlike the case in 70s, 80s when the things were getting developed first in military technology domain and then getting copied in civil. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I feel, and that gives us good chance to cover the gap faster. So we have this opportunity to leapfrog, if we can use this word. Though leapfrogging is never easy, it won't be easy here also. As a catchword, it might sound very, very good, but leapfrogging without having good base won't be possible. So we have to have good base here also. And that we need to create, and it will require good amount of resources to be spent on core technology, on basic science, basic technology here. And that's where we should all be ready to spend money in. We have certain initiative. DRDO is doing a great job. They have also got their technology development fund, where they nurture the technology up to the TRL level 4 or 5, as I've been told. And then we have IDEX program, which takes up it further. Then we have many civilian Department of Science and Technology, and other department, Anusandhan Fund, which has been recently launched, where it can fund this type of technology. We have got quantum computing mission, as Mr. Chengappa spoke about. So we have many such parallel initiative in the civil domain which can come and dovetail their know-how, their knowledge, their advancement, and bring it here for some useful purpose in the military domain. But the money which we are right now putting in is too small, at least directly, the way we are putting it. IDEX is a scheme which is spent around 200 to 50 crore per annum, not more than that, and so might be the TDF in the same range. But would that be adequate? My heart says no. Mine still I'm not able to understand the requirement, but heart says probably it won't be good enough. So we have to find out resources to put money in this area of work, which can make a change, which can make a difference, not only for the future equipment, but also the longevity and efficiency of the equipment which are already in our possession. It can increase their longevity and also the efficacy and efficiency. That's why we need to put our money in understanding more on AI, quantum technology, quantum computing, sensors, autonomous equipment, swarm, etc., and do experiment at various level by spending money. Another clear requirement is of data. And there, the armed force has to really find out a doctrine, develop a doctrine where they can seamlessly share data with our innovator. Because wherever, in a limited manner, we have interacted with the people from the pool of the IDEX winner, one of the bottleneck which has been cited is lack of data. Because all of these things would work when they have some good data on which they can carry out their experimentation and perfect the model on which they are right now working. And there is a difficulty that what type of data to be shared, when to be shared, in which form to be shared. That doctrine need to be developed with much, much more clarity, and that data should be started to be shared. Otherwise, whatever we will develop will not be perfected in our own Indian conditions, or it won't probably meet fully and efficiently our own requirement. So there, I think in CDS office, some group is working, as I've been told, not very clearly, but whatever I could understood in interaction. And I'm sure they understand the urgency and need of this much better than any of us. and would come out faster, and a policy, and also start sharing data proactively with, if not all, at least with chosen vendors or chosen institute, so that they can start working. Another area where we would need to put our efforts would be use of space more effectively, because it's still it's an area where there's not too much of crowding happening. Maybe it would happen soon. So we also have certain advantage. We have proven competency in sending satellites to the space. Now probably what we need to work is developing good, competent payloads which can do the required work using those satellites, and also start sending many more and much more competent satellite in the sky. Other characteristic which I would like to mention, then I would finish, is that here the type of vendors which we would be dealing as a purchaser, their characteristic would be different than what they were in the past. Typically, I see them young, energetic, slightly impatient, and not very formal in their approach. Type of people who have other options. All these words are very important in my opinion. Young, energetic, not so much patience, not so much formal, and also have other options. So what it tells me is that we have to be quite fast in our reaction, in our response. We have to probably break hierarchy when we work with them. We might have to break our formal structures also to work with them. And we have to be very quick in our decision making. Typically, in our decisions, when we go for acquisition of system, it takes quite a lot of time. And these youngsters either may not have patience, or may not have deep pockets, money, or may have other options, better options to go in the civilian market to do work. So we might have to be much more faster than in the past. So we might have to develop doctrine paradigms of testing faster, responding faster, and converting some projects, or converting projects into the purchase order much faster, so that all these youngsters can sustain their livelihood along with their fellow entrepreneurs, scientists who are working with them. That's what a change in our approach, change in our procedures would be required. And not only for this purpose, but also for other purpose. The technology itself is changing so fast. We have seen in the case in the past, I mean, my colleagues on the armed force must agree with me that many times the purchase or the procurement started with a conception of a system, and when it took 4 or 5 years, the particular type of system itself underwent change. Like, just to give an example, something was conceived on the basis of decentralized computing. By the time it resulted into the work order, decentralized computing became a method of past, and centralized computing became method of today. Right now, again, we are moving towards decentralized computing. So the technology keeps on changing so fast that if we don't decide fast, then we might end up with risk of something which is obsolete, which is not very useful, or something which is suboptimal than what is available in the market. So I would end my random thoughts here, as I said, that not very structured. So thank you very much for listening. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar. I was really impressed by your pragmatic approach. This is a very complex subject. I think you broke it down very nicely into saying what's self-reliance and what's technology, and then defining each of these and the strides we've made on it, and also looking at some of the key areas that you've talked about: space, data, computing, all of these areas that we need to develop both our self-reliance and technology in. And I also like the last part that you talked about, which was the vendors and us improving the speed of our decision making. I guess that would include L1 as well, whether that is still a criteria or not. That's been the common heartburn of a lot of people. But we are almost out of time, and I'm just taking the privilege of, and as the moderator, to ask you one question, which I thought would sum up some of the experience that you have. You have a vast experience on a lot of subjects, but looking at the vast industrial background that you've had, apart from the fact that managing various things. One of the things that struck me when you were talking about the engines, the fact that we don't have cutting edge engines to power our uh, aircraft, our tanks. Some of them have been developed, even our cars. I mean, that's one of the things that India seems to lack. I think the Prime Minister mentioned that in his Independence Day speech, that it's about time we did a jet engine. Now we've come up with, I think you were probably integral in that whole process of negotiations with Safran and to deliver and give us not only the technology, but also a lot of the know-how and everything else to develop a jet engine. If you take a look, I don't know how much of that you can talk about, because GE is also there, but they're not giving us the full technology for that. I think they went up to 80%, but that 20% was very critical, and we may not be able to make that in India in terms of that mastery over the GE 404 or 414 that we're getting. So if you take a look at this industrial complex that we need to set up, and that's why I wanted you to come in on this. What is it that we need to do in the next 4 or 5 years so that you have a military industrial complex that can catch up with this rapid rate, able to take new technologies, absorb it, and deliver to the nation? Keep the self-reliance in mind. We're not expecting all our companies to be overnight top stars that are there. What would be the right balance, you feel?
In fact, we have made the right beginning. When we are saying that we would be giving priority, number one priority to the equipment which are developed in India, designed in India, in fact, and developed and manufactured in India. That's the clear indication. That's the most important thing which we can do to develop our own military industrial complexes. We have to just remain steadfast on that option. Though the challenges would come when we might be tempted, for the all right reasons, none of them is wrong reason, to go beyond that and say that IDDM is fine, but we need to do something else also. So there we have to be guarded and see that IDDM should remain our choice of procurement and choice of development new product. Obviously, not everything can be developed on day one. It will take years and years. Even all these developed countries took many years to master certain technologies. And after having mastered those technologies, they safeguarded very well. And that's why they kept on safeguarding and improving it. That's why they are where they are. So we have made a choice, good choice, I must say excellent choice, and we need to continue with this choice. And then surely these military industrial complex would develop, which would have huge strength, not only in manufacturing, but also uh, designing new products, designing and developing new product. And associated with that would be to develop and invest pure sciences, because without pure sciences, many of these things may not happen. And our institutes who are working in pure sciences, IITs, IC Bangalore type institute or Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, laboratories, physics, etc., chemical laboratory, etc. They're working in the pure science. We need to continue to work with them, and probably we need to work with them much more vigorously than what we have been doing in the past, so that they can also carry out the research in the area where we are interested, and we can also use the research which they have done in the past. That connect need to be strengthened, and uh, third angle need to bring is the industry should also be brought nearer to them. The engine story is well known. I mean, it's require efforts, and we have to sustain efforts. Sometimes we might be successful in a projected time frame. Sometimes we may not be successful in the projected time frame, because projected time frame is also ours. A person who is a beginner is projected that in next 5 years, like that, okay, I'm not a swimmer, but I decide that I should be able to swim in a month. But from which data? Data is that either my coach must have told me, or I must have seen some other people who must have learned swimming in 1 month. But does that mean that I would be able to do in 1 month? I may do in 15, 20 days. I may do in 2 to 3 months. So the requirement is that I continue to learn that. I continue to do that, and so that I will end up learning swimming. Similarly, in development of new technology and including engine, we would be successful. We will continue to do that.
Okay, and one quick follow-up question since you had mentioned space. We have to. Okay, we're done. Yeah, time. Huh. Oh my! I was quite happy to be done, and I'm sure Mr. Kumar must be rushing back. But yeah, just one quick question on this space thing that you had mentioned. And if you take a look at the space example, one of the things they've done, and even atomic energy is now opening up, is that the private sector has been called in uh, to build rockets, to own rockets and build satellites, and they've opened up the entire space sector when earlier it was primarily with the Indian Space Research Organization. Do you see parallels in the defense sector where we do have DRDO and had for a long time a monopoly on a lot of these systems, but is being asked to open up, and of course there's going to be resistance on that front, as we can see. What we you're laughing already. What is your approach in terms when we're talking of this military-industrial complex? How much do you think the private sector should step forward into making critical armaments and us trusting them to do that on this front?
This is two part of your question. One is that how much private industry should be coming in manufacturing the, and second part was DRDO. So I think DRDO is opening up, and they have already opened up quite a bit. TDF and Dare to Dream and DCPP, they're involving private sector. Certainly they would open up more and more. So when they are able to develop the systems to safeguard or to understand how to work in a collaborative manner with the private R&D. About manufacturing by private sector, already private sector has been given a level playing field. There's no more any reservation for any public sector or something like that. Somebody who has
except in critical areas.
Not even critical area.
Some of the PSUs are still.
I don't think they are getting preference just because they are PSU. Maybe they are getting preference because they have only developed that system. Right now, Challenger is not there. So it's not that Challenger is debarred. Is that somebody else is not there? That's why they're doing it. It's like early mover advantage that they're having right now. It's going to dissipate in coming years. It's not going to remain forever. So the numbers also bear it out. The 1,50,000 crore annual production, which I spoke about now, almost 24-25% of that is coming from the private sector, which is increasing over the year. I'm sure it's going to increase, and the private sector would have main role to play in these military industrial complex.
One question, Alphabet, in the sense, and then we have to wind out because the other speakers, you had raised your hand, Ambassador.
Thank you, sir. Just one, in fact, quick question. You talked about critical gaps. Yogendra Kumar, former ambassador. Critical gaps, you identify critical gaps in manufacture of hardware. So my question actually is, at our current state of capabilities in terms of time and scale, I mean, how would you assess that? And compare and connected with that, the integration new technology. What should be the nature, the form of integration new technology to the existing hardware that we have, which will actually amount to a game changer? And my second question, if I may be allowed to, the data centers. We're talking about the AI or cloud AI, where you actually have custom-based LLMs. So, for example, I mean, like the Chinese have developed LLMs, classified LLMs for their security and for the defense sector. I mean, defense ministry, which means that a Chinese general might be able to have a profile of, let's say, our general who's facing him at a critical moment, profile the sense of response time, psychology, and so on and so forth. So I'm wondering, these kind of challenges or these two questions, what do you think about them?
Very difficult question, Ambassador. And second question is very specific, and I'm probably not aware of any specific development in that regard. Exactly, this falls in the domain of the people who have to handle these situations. So I'm not aware of that. Let me confess that. First part, the way I understood is that you are saying that how to integrate newest technologies in the existing systems, existing hardware, to become a game changer. So this is two things which are very easily comes in my mind, is that integrating their capabilities. It's like if you're fighting with one thing and you are not aware rest of the 100 things what they're doing and what they're seeing. So it's a very limited ability which you have. But if that one thing which is fighting, one equipment which is responding, also knows what my other hundreds of equipment seeing and what they can do, it would be force multiplier. That's why it's called network-centric approach of whatever. Again, I'm using this whatever my speech also say, because I really don't remember that exact word. But what it essence means that all of them are contributing to a decision matrix, and all of them are taking part in the decision matrix. So it's a huge force multiplier. This can be done with the existing equipment using the new technology, latest technologies. Second is that to improve the precision of the existing equipment. And probably they saw in 70s, the Americans did it. Whatever I learned somewhere, they integrated chips in the bombs, etc., to improve the precisionness of that. So obviously, existing equipment precision can be improved by having integrating new technology. Thank you very much.
Well, I think we have to close this session. I'm sorry, I know a lot of questions. Probably when you go outside, you can answer some of them if they're there. But ladies and gentlemen, let's give Mr. Sanjeev Kumar a very, very warm round of applause for this highly pragmatic and insightful speech. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar.